The following is a presentation of Geekster Media.
Hey there, and welcome to another edition of the Thrift Store. Horde, the Mighty Three have returned once again. We are back all together as a unit. We've had two, duo shows, and now we have the full trio. So we're excited to have Chris back. Chris, how's it going?
It's going great. Glad to be back.
Good. Kevin, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, Adam. God, it feels so long since we've talked.
Well, it's interesting too, like when you start building stuff up and you're like, oh, I gotta I gotta wait how long, how many weeks, to share this on here. So this will be fun though as we get through what we've been finding out in the wild, what we've been maybe seeking out in specialty shops or at different shows. This is the summertime, there's a lot going on. Kevin and I are getting ready to go to RetroCon, so next time around we'll have a lot to report on for sure. But either way, let's get into it here. Chris, since we've missed you so much, why don't you start us off with the first round? We got to see what you've been holding on to.
Well, I was trying to figure out what all I had. I was like, man, I don't have much. And then I started looking and looking and looking. I go, oh yeah, maybe I did.
I don't believe that.
I know. I hit a couple flea markets. My thrifting's been down a little bit, but I did hit some flea markets sort of the end of start of last month. And so, and I've hit some used bookstores, comic shops, and some stuff like that. So we'll just start digging in here. So Adam, this one's for you. Went to a used comic shop. Love the quarter bins, love the 50-cent bins, much as I know you do too. Found a copy of Inquest #1 in one of the 50-cent bins. It's not the greatest condition. Has a lot of creases on the back, but I didn't have one in my collection yet, so I had to pick it up. Hopefully I can upgrade it at some point. I don't remember. Do you know if the first few was polybagged? Or was it one of the ones where they...
I have a copy and it's still in the poly bag, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious about that. Like I said, hit the flea market last month. One of the dealers there that always has just some of the most random stuff that I love. Had a set of Ninja Turtles uncolored in coloring books.
Wow.
Or coloring and adventures to color. So I bought all 4 of them they had. Again, I love coloring books. And always excited to hit that table up.
My favorite thing about those is always just the off-model designs. Like they have different artists for the different coloring books, just like whoever they could get, and it's always just a little bit different each time.
What else we got? Oh, I did. I hit up a used books, or not a used bookstore. So the town where I went to high school in, every year they have the old-fashioned 4th of July celebration, and so we wandered around doing stuff. And then in my old high school, it's now a community center, and they rent out one of the buildings for what they call a flea market. And it's just basically this old lady that sells books. It's basically just boxes and boxes and boxes of books, no organization. Just go in there and everything's $1 a piece, which I love that type of stuff because I love pulp novels and such as that. So I spent some time in there to the irritation of my family and found a big stack, but some of the highlights were Flash Gordon, the Lost Continent of Mongo, and Flash Gordon, the Ice Monster. These are full-on illustrated Flash Gordon cartoon books. Love to grab movie adaptations. So we got Superman, Last Son of Krypton. This is not a movie adaptation, but or maybe it is.
No. So the history of that one, I have that one, and it's because Mario Puzo, the writer of The Godfather, he wrote the script for Superman, but he held on to the rights and they, for the script, and he wouldn't let them adapt it into a novelization. So they had to release a book in conjunction with the movie, but it was not a novelization at all.
Gotcha. I never knew that. Then we have, I love Choose Your Own Adventures. This is not a Choose Your Own Adventure, but it's another style called Make It Happen, which is a weekly reader paperback club book. Master of the Past. Haven't had a chance to read through it, see what happened in it. Has some Revolutionary War era stuff going on, so it'll be interesting. It's sort of off-brand Choose Your Own Adventures are always fun to grab. Another type of Choose Your Own Adventure, the Dungeons and Dragons had their books that they did. TSR did their versions of Choose Your Own Adventure. I don't know if people know that they also did a line of books for Choose Your Own Adventure books aimed towards the female demographic.
Huh.
They're called Heart Quest. And typically they're pretty rare. I was sort of bummed because this one has some on it. But the Ring of the Ruby Dragon. And they're really adventures sort of geared towards, dang, lost my camera for a second. Their adventures sort of geared towards romance and adventure, I guess.
Heart Quest. Wow.
Yeah. I have another one somewhere, but I didn't have this one yet. So
start off with InQuest. Now we got Heart Quest. We'll see where we end up.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. Sean Robert, he's the one that he was talking about those one day, and then I happened to find them shortly after I heard him talking about it somewhere. And so now I always keep my eyes open for them just because they are rare and somewhat valuable. Here's a cool one. Worlds of Power. So Metal Gear, it's a book created by FX9.
So do you know what those were? They adapting specifically only Nintendo games, or was it the maker of the games that licensed out their, because does it say Nintendo anywhere on there?
It just says based on the best-selling Nintendo game. Yeah, it says Nintendo's registered trademark of Nintendo.
Okay, so it is through Nintendo officially. Yep. That's cool.
So Scholastic book. It's a novel. Like I thought when I first saw it, I thought it might be like a strategy guide or something, but nope, it's a novelization of Metal Gear. And then this is the last book I picked out, or second to last book I picked out from there. I thought it looked pretty amazing. Sexpionage. So it's a story, or it's a book of exploitation of sex by Soviet intelligence in the 1950s and 60s. So it talks about like the spies and everything that was going on with the Soviets back then. I looked it up. It's pretty, I guess it's sort of a somewhat valuable book. It's sort of one of those things that people kind of rare, I guess. I don't know. It's always interesting to learn about like the histories of those times too. Like I said, I did hit up the bins. Finally found a decent Charlie Brown book. Typically when I find them, they're trashed and I end up leaving them, but good grief, Charlie Brown. This one is in somewhat decent condition, so it came home with me. And then this one I just thought was funny because I love finding old cartoony books. The Mountain Boys Hillbilly Comics. And it's just,
is it like competing with Little Abner? Is it funny, or is it?
Yeah, they're funny. They're just like short little jokes, sort of something look like something you'd get out of the like a Mad magazine or something is what they kind of look like.
Yeah.
It was it's sort of funny, had to grab it. Little comic books at the bins are usually pretty cheap. I had a deal. I was trying to work out a deal to buy a bunch of arcade games from one of the guys I pick from sometimes. He does storage unit auctions, so he gets all sorts of random stuff. And he had a bunch of what he thought were sealed Atari games. But I went and looked at them, and they'd they were all home sealed. So somebody took, and I had to go back and forth with them, sort of educating them on it, because the flaps were all taped down underneath the ceiling, and like there's different other ways to tell.
Yeah, that happened
And
to me once where I got one and I sold it on eBay and they're like, wait, this was resealed. I was like, I didn't know. I bought it from the store. It was sealed. It was a good deal. Now I know why.
yeah, and I think a lot of the Atari sealed stuff, actually looking, most of them weren't shrink wrap. They were all just sealed, like just the cardboard was sealed. So when you see
Oh, I
shrink
see.
wrap on a lot of old Ataris, you should take pause and double check.
Okay, well that makes more sense. So
But
did you walk away with any or no?
no. He didn't want to split it up, and the price he was looking for was a little too high. And by the time he came back to me and asked me if I wanted them, and I just decided we couldn't come to a decent middle ground, because they'd just be so much effort to. There's not a lot of market for Atari games,
Yeah.
and there weren't a ton I wanted in there. It just, it got away. But he did have these in there, and he gave them to me for free, just for my time, and I thought they were pretty interesting. 2 copies of Pop and Play, an unauthorized Nintendo instructions. So they're basically old Nintendo strategy guides that were unauthorized. Talking about they're pretty basic hints and techniques, and then player controls, how to do things in these. No pictures. They're just sort of cool, and for free, that's a pretty good price for collectible old Nintendo related stuff. Another thing I picked up at that little flea market, and I almost walked out with it, is an old Dungeons and Dragons adventure by Gary Gygax. We've talked about my love of Dungeons and Dragons before, so anytime I can find a module for $1 is a good day. Typically they sell for 10 to 50 or 60 bucks depending on the modules. Moving on into some more of my book media. I got this Judge Dredd rulebook companion.
So that's for a role-playing game too?
Yes, by Games Workshop. Games Workshop used to license a bunch of different games, and I believe it's for a role-playing game. It could be. I'm not sure. It might actually be a miniatures battle game too, because Games Workshop sort of focused on that. No, it looks like it's a RPG. So,
okay.
I haven't done too much looking into it, but yeah, it's Judge Dredd role-playing game.
Well, I'm excited to know about that now, because on Wizards, my comic book podcast, on our Patreon, we're actually going to be covering the Judge Dredd movies in September.
Oh, cool.
So it's cool to know that exists as a piece of the history.
Yeah, they're pretty spendy when I started doing a little bit of research on Judge Dredd stuff from that era. Old Games Workshop stuff typically is. It's pretty collectible. And what else did we find? I did find a big stack. Oh, gotta pull it out here. That same dealer at the flea market that had all the RPG stuff, and some of the Ninja Turtle stuff. I got a bunch of these games, and I don't have any rules for it, but they were pretty interesting. Mercenaries and Super Spies, and then the TSR version, Top Secret, and a couple other Mercenary and Super Spy modules, and the Adventure of the Jade Jaguar. What caught my eye on these was they're all written by Michael. The Mercenary Super Spy ones were all written by Michael Stackpole, who, if you recognize the name, he wrote the X-Wing series for Star Wars, and he's science fiction and fantasy. I think he's written some fantasy too. So it's a lot of stuff I've read of his when I was a teenager, young adult. So I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. So I grabbed those just because I always liked his writing, and I thought it was interesting. It was involved in a gaming venture. That same booth had some other cool, just random stuff. We have a TSR Marvel Superheroes catalog. So it's the catalog of their RPG stuff they had out. And this is for the later stuff. So I didn't even realize they got all the way up to Marvel 2099.
Oh.
So I may have to try to hunt that down. That sounds pretty interesting. And the Infinity Watch campaign set. Some of these Marvel sets go for a pretty decent little amount anymore. Almost all that RPG stuff, especially the stuff that is like module form that would have gotten dinged up and beat up, it seems like it sells for a decent little amount, which is why it's always nice to find it as a thrift. I did find one module there. So the breeder bombs, Marvel superheroes. And so it's basically the X-Men trying to save the day again. And it still has the map. That's the other thing that's usually missing in a lot of these is the maps or other cutouts. So
that's cool.
And then one other thing I found from them was a copy of White Wolf magazine. So White Wolf magazine was publishing RPG stuff for like SR's Dragon magazine. But the thing that drawn me to this was a very early review of Magic the Gathering.
Whoa.
So it's basically one of the first, like a really early article about like this new card game that was coming out called Magic the Gathering. And they all gave it a pretty decent rating, 4s and 5s. One guy gave it a 3 because he didn't like the randomness of the draw. Another cool catalog I got, a Ral Partha catalog from 1994, showing all the different Ral Partha miniatures you could order. I collect metal miniatures, so I always love having these as basically resources to look through. And then the last set of books I grabbed were really cool. I went to my buddy's table and he had these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle role-playing game books. So we got Roadhogs, Transdimensional Turtles, and Mutants Down Under. I think I have all of these, but mine aren't in anywhere near as good condition. And he gave me a really nice deal on them, so I had brought them home to upgrade the collection. So now I have to go through and figure out which ones I have and which ones I don't.
Sweet.
All right, that's it for my media right now.
Yeah, pretty good haul there. Kevin, I saw you sneak back and grab a few more things. So what are you going to show us?
Something was said, and I'm like, oh, there's a box behind me that I need to grab. All right. So how do I want to do this? I'll do it like that. All right. Ed and I were talking earlier this week about short stories, and I was telling him that anytime I see certain authors in short story collections, I just grab them. So I was going to show off some of them. So chance, like random one on top, the year's best horror stories, series 12. So I will just grab these things and then I'll check inside, and see. But this one has Uncle Otto's Truck from Stephen King. I have no idea what that one is. I will probably not read any other story, and then I'll just pass it on. But any of these that I find, I'll grab. So I got that. Another year's best horror story. Another year best Nebula winners. Like any of these stuff. I've probably bought some of these like multiple times and read a story and got rid of it. But well, and for the big collection, which is my Harlan Ellison one, I'll see, I'll grab the story, grab the book, don't want to leave it behind, and then I'll check my bigger shelves. And if the same story's in a book I'm actually keeping, then I'll get rid of this. But I don't want to lose out because I've done that before. That one's last. Best science fiction ones of the year. This one does have Nelson ones right on the cover. And it has the human operators in this one, which I probably do have in one of the books, but I couldn't pass it up. And again, it's just best horror stories, best sci-fi. This one's really creepy looking.
So my question is, to your knowledge, these collections, are the short stories written for that, or they're like a digest taken from magazines from other people's collections?
So most of them are your DAW, your yellow spine ones, which if I see any sci-fi, fantasy, pulpy thing like this, pulp crazy novels, maybe round 2, maybe Chris and I had a little back and forth online a little bit ago. So that's purposely another pile here. If I see this yellow spine, I grab it no matter what. And I just figure it out later on. But for these anthologies, they actually have the copyrights right in there as well with the table of contents. So appeared in Whispers magazine, appeared in Weird Book. This one from Dennis Etchinson, first publication by arrangement with the author.
Oh, okay.
To probably a driving thing to get it published. From the magazine of fantasy and science fiction, from Hollow Faces, from the Stephen King one, this one's Children of the Corn, which was originally Night Shift and then republished here. So it depends on what it is, but they'll give credit. But I mean, Dahl was huge back in the day, so they could commission something exclusively for one of these. And then, have that be your sales bump. Now, the one that shocked me once for the cover, shocked me again for what was inside. Okay. Now, I might not rent out an apartment to him, allegedly, but I was shocked to find David Copperfield's Tales of the Impossible. And I was like, well, that's cool. He probably did nothing for this other than threw his name on it. But, I was like, that's kind of cool. With an introduction by Dean Koontz. Ooh, ah. But what got me, I'm looking through, David Copperfield has a couple stories in here. All right, there's a Ray Bradbury, okay? Kevin Anderson, Eric Lesbader, Joyce Carol Oates, F. Paul Wilson. Lots of names I recognize. But the name I recognize that I did not expect to find a short story in here is Jack Kirby.
Whoa.
Jack Kirby has a story called The Conversation of Tagujai Batir. I don't know. I'm trying to pronounce that as best I could. But boy, it sounds like a Kirby name. So I'm like, is it not that Jack Kirby? Maybe it's some other writer with a similar name. It's not like we got Screen Actors Guild and, you got to add a middle name. No. From the David Copperfield author introduction, not many people know that the late Jack Kirby, creator among others of Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, Captain America, X-Men, had a novel in progress that was very close to his heart. With permission from his wife, Roz, and with the writing help of my co-editor, we have extrapolated from that novel. So as far as I know, this isn't anywhere else.
Yeah, you just never know what you're going to find. Wow.
No. So I'm like, David Copperfield doing one? Like, that's crazy. That's just silly. I remember watching his specials presented by Clorox. But I didn't expect to find a Kirby one in there. So I haven't read the story yet, but super curious. Yeah. So again, how do I want to do this? I'll do it like that. It's New Comic Day as we record this. There was a big Archie comic out today. You can finally pick between Betty and Veronica.
For the 12th time.
Yes. Well, I don't know if this is time 10 then maybe, but I found Life with Archie. Now, this one has two stories, one that tells if you would marry Veronica and one that tells if you would marry Betty and how the worlds would go. This Life with Archie one was like an oversized book or comic that they had at newsstands everywhere because it was the oversize. And the stories were like, one is he's with Veronica, one's he's with Betty. And it was in the future a little bit, like just enough, and was hugely popular for a while. I don't remember if I lost them, if I couldn't find them, if what, but like they were hugely popular for a while. They were at like Rite Aid, Walmart, like every magazine section, and then just gone out of nowhere. I believe, was it the Superman Batman magazine that there was a discussion about recently? Yep. Now, I didn't find that, but I did find the Spider-Man magazine.
Cool.
So from MarvelKids.com. Also has Fantastic Four and Power Pack stories in here. Really, like, seriously, if you want to get kids into comics, like, Power Pack should be a bigger deal. I've always thought so. So, classic stories reprinted. More modern drawing style, a little sillier for the kids. And then all sorts of, like, there's a poster in here. There's, different games and gimmicks and stuff. And this thing, when it came out, was $6, which I'm like, I would absolutely... Oh, hey, little Timmy, we're just stopping for gas and a potty break there, but you can get a magazine to read in the car during our cross-country road trip. Like, this would be perfect. There should be more of these out to this day. And I mentioned RetroCon. My goal this year is to complete West Coast Avengers and New Warriors. That's it. I'm going to focus on those and not buy random other stuff. So, since that conversation, though, I did find a new comic store in my hometown, and I think it's I think he bought out people's collections and failed stores over the years, and he is finally opening up his own, but I don't think I'm supposed to know that. So I was able to find some West Coast vendors I didn't have and knock those out. So I think I only have 5 left from the original series of 101 issues. I got way too many New Warriors that I didn't realize. And then West Coast Avengers had a volume 2 that I'm missing about 4 or 5 years ago, let's say. And volume 3, well, technically volume 4, is actually coming out in 2 months. It was in this edition of previews. So I got to try to get that. But just some random West Coast Avengers that I found to keep up the collection. And I love seeing the progression of the series too, to just, from what it was to where it ended up. This one I think was like, oh, we got Death Web, and by the time this is peak Image era, oh, let's have Spider-Man cameo. It's issue 85, it ended at 102. I think this was trying to bump up the sales. Oh, we have a sexy Ultron girlfriend here called War Toy.
Wow, War Machine and War Toy. Okay.
You could see it happening. When Goliaths collide, and I believe this was pre-Thunderbolts. Darkhawk was a member of the West Coast Avengers at one point. And then I don't know. I just got to open it and dig through, but I'll do that later. But a New Warriors Ash Can. And that's around issue like Namorita's Chimera, or I forget how to pronounce that. Like she had changed her form there for a bit. Rage is on the team. Silhouette's officially on the team. It was later on, but I don't know why there was an Ash Can. Like it makes no sense. But we did have that random forced collecting Ash Can era there of like, oh, we'll just give these away.
Hero Illustrated was really big with that. Yeah.
So I kind of think it was part of that. And then all the discussion of RPG stuff. I've done Dungeons and Dragons once. I absolutely loved it. Had blast, would do it again, but I would need to be part of people knowing what they're doing. But I do have appreciation for the art and the books and the concept of it. So I see this, I see the spine, and I thought, there's no way. And then I see the front, I'm like, oh, it's part of a role-playing game. I thought I found something crazy. So there was a Ghostbusters RPG, apparently. And the main book reference in the Ghostbusters movie is Tobin's Spirit Guide.
Whoa.
So it's your usual, RPG format for stuff, but it's for the, creatures and characters and stuff that would have been in Tobin's Spirit Guide. And I was really just kind of fascinated by it. I'm like, just as a piece of, I'll say, literature, not with the weight of that word, but for, I would read this just for the heck of it, not even to play the game. But I just thought that was super cool. Again, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it after I look through, but I just thought it was really cool. I met Chris was
ready for it. Yeah.
Sure. Honestly,
you can just send it to me.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But Chris was mentioning what some of those RPG guides go for. I think I looked up one time I had a hardcover D&D that was first or second printing that I just randomly ended up with from a garage sale, and I got rid of it for $30 or whatever years ago. But other than that, I have no clue for any of these. But I'm sure Chris and I can work out trade at least or something. All right, that is it for that round, and I have plans for the rest.
Okay. Well, as far as books go, I don't have a lot to report on this time around, so I'm going to make this just my random items round, I guess. But I did manage to pick up the kids novelization of The Nightmare Before Christmas. So that was cool to grab that. It's the school book club edition, but it's got, nice photos and everything in the middle. So it's kind of neat to grab that. And then I was able to grab this Starfleet Academy Worf's first adventure. I just thought that for history's sake, is it canon? Who knows? But I thought that was kind of a neat thing to have. Plus, it's written by Peter David, so it's always good to get a Peter David story. But yeah, that as far as random stuff that I found at garage sales of late, I was able to get how about the Toy Story Super Nintendo game? My 5-year-old is obsessed with old gaming hardware right now. In fact, I'll just say, so for his birthday, all he's been asking for months is I want an original Game Boy. And I'm hunting around, I'm seeing what those go for. I just mentioned it online the other day, and Chris reaches out and he's like, I think I have a Game Boy around here. And he sent it to make this kid's birthday the best it could be. So Chris, thank you for that. He's gonna be
Not a
so
problem.
happy. So also though, as I've just been around at Goodwill the other day for like $3, there was this Marvel Legends classic Loki from the series. And I messaged our friend Billy Bruce West. I was like, should I just grab this? He's like, for $3, you might as well, as long as he's actually in there. I'm like, sounds like he's in there. So I think we're good. Um, what else? Oh yeah. So at the same garage sale where I managed to get the Toy Story video game, I also got another camcorder. Now here's the thing. The reason I grabbed it is I was like, okay, the one I have works, but I always have to plug it in. And this one had like the charger, it had batteries, it had all that stuff. And so I was like, great, maybe this one will work where I can charge the batteries and then actually walk around with it. Nope. I think it's just those batteries when they're 40 years old, 30 years old, they can't carry a charge after a certain point. So I still have to plug it in, but the cord on this one is longer. So at the very least, but now I can have like a 2 camera setup if I ever want to do a real old school. I started doing this VHS series. So we'll see how that goes. What else? Just make sure I didn't stick something else down here. Okay. Last thing I'll just share here for this round, and then I'll come back around it because I have audio tapes. I got a lot of VHS stuff. But Chris, hearing about one of your recent acquisitions with all your home recorded VHS tapes that ended up being episodes of MASH, I just had to grab this. Which a little scandalous there on the cover. This is just a guy, and it just says Al DeLore plays the theme from MASH, and then a bunch of other stuff. There's Al looking good, but I mean, it was just a bunch of stuff. Raindrops keep falling on my head, and bridge over troubled water and stuff like that. But MASH was the thing he was going to promote, right? Get everybody excited. Um, the other one I found though was kind of cool. I don't know if you guys ever saw reruns of this show, but the new Zoo review, does that ring a bell at all? So these were costumed characters. Here they're all illustrated, but they were this is like a full storybook and record type deal, where you just flip through. But it is the most 70s thing. And I remember seeing this and growing up, I saw the Electric Company, I saw Sesame Street, and I was like, new Zoo review, what the heck? So I grabbed that just for that weird nostalgia bump. Also, I was in a retro store recently that my son likes to go to because they have the newer release stand-up arcade games and stuff. And normally I don't buy like their VHS or any of their stuff that they have, just because like they got to make some money off it, so they mark it up. I understand how that goes. But there was one thing that I could not turn down. And because I have a full collection of VHS and DVD and Blu-ray and all of that. And that was the Supergirl CED video disc copy. I was just like, wow, I do not have this. This one I have never come across. And obviously I have 2 of the video disc players. How functional they are is the question these days. But it was just so awesome to be able to find that and add it, to my shelf. I will throw one more thing on here with that also, just random DVD purchase at a garage sale. So this is like an old documentary. It's been around for a long time. I love the Nightmare on Elm Street one, but for some reason, yeah, the people that I bought it from, they drew like teardrop tattoos on Jason and did some weird like gang tattoo stuff. I don't know what this is supposed to be.
Well, I don't know if you're aware, Adam, but Jason killed a person, so he's got the teardrop tattoo. I mean, spoiler.
That's what's going on. He was showing his street cred, I guess. That just cracked me up. I was just like, I don't know why, but I'll be watching it this October. So let's get back to Chris real quick. And like I say, when we get into tapes and VHS, I'll have a lot more to share.
All right. Well, let's move into that other media, non-written media. So bin diving typically is not great for cassette tapes. A lot of times you're fighting other people for a lot of stuff, and usually if there are cassette tapes, they're just country music of the sort that I'm not into. I mean, I love certain like outlaw country and a bunch of other stuff, but usually it's just stuff that like you see at every garage sale and everywhere. Past couple of weeks though have been pretty good, or past couple times I've gone, I got the Beatles anthology.
Oh,
And it's a double tape set, so it's a really big cassette case.
Because usually, if it's a double cassette, even the plastic is individual ones, and they just got like a hinge or something, put them together. That giant thing all around it, I've never seen that before. Yeah. Oh, it opens like that?
Yeah.
Huh.
So
that's cool.
Just a tip for anybody that does go thrifting for VHS or cassette tapes, always look at them.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes there might be mold. Like usually you can see where the tape is in the little clear viewer, and you want to make sure there's no mold spots or mold on there. It's just not going to be any good.
Or it's just the wrong tape altogether.
Yeah, that too. Got Halloween Horrors.
Ooh. What is that?
So it's basically, it says the story of Halloween Horror, which I don't know what that means. But then program 2 is the sounds of Halloween and other useful effects. So I think these are like cassettes they would have just used in old haunted houses and stuff back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
When I managed one of those pop-up Halloween stores years ago, and they would play, that's the music for in the store. They would like play those on loop, but then people ended up enjoying them, so they did sell them too.
Tape I remember my cousins bringing over one time when I was a little kid. Europe, The Final Countdown.
Classic.
Got some Credence. And then Led Zeppelin 2, which actually I was really surprised that was still in there, because any kind of rock is usually some of the first stuff to go.
Yeah.
VHS, got lucky, found a Muppet Babies. Has Meet the Muppet Babies, Baby Piggy and the Giant Bubble, and What's a Gonzo.
So just so you know, on those tapes, because I have various Muppet Babies tapes like that, and that is storybooks. And it's
see that
storybook pages. Yeah.
Never seen on TV.
Nope.
I found a Steve Martin movie. I didn't ever hear. My wife's a Steve Martin fan, and I've never heard of this movie before. So thought it was pretty. I had to grab it because we're gonna watch it at one point. Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
Yep.
Never seen it. I did think it was interesting because looking at the back of the case, Steve Martin's hair is like dark colored, which I don't think I've ever seen him with hair that's not white.
Yeah.
So I was like, this must be an old film. We talked about Rankin Bass, Hobbit. Had to grab it when I find the VHS tapes in a little dollar bin. Oh, I didn't even realize when I got it. It's Hollywood Video.
Ah.
I do buy screeners. That's one of the other things I look for when I'm looking for tapes. I found this one starring Judd Nelson called The Dark Asylum. And it's sealed, but I don't know if it was sealed by the factory and just never opened by a video store, or if it was resealed by the video store. But don't know anything about it. It's supposed to be a horror movie, apparently. Darkness reigns supreme. Unlock the horror and watch your profits soar. The Darkest Asylum. And then my other promo copy, it's got a nice little gold stamp. Said promo copy not for sale. Iron Eagle 2. And then my last, I got a record. I did pick up a record. Again, my record buying is slowed down since my shelving for records is overflowing, and I'm going to have to start making choices. But when I can find an old album that's still sealed, I usually, if it's one I'm somewhat interested in, I'll pick it up. So I found C.W. McCall's album. And if you know who he is, he had the song Convoy back in the heyday of the CB culture. And I love that song, and that song is on here, plus a number of other good ones, but I won't know because I'm not going to open this one. I probably already have it open on my shelf as well, but again, and then my Kevin is showing off some comic books. I found a garage sale, and nothing extraordinarily crazy, but I did get a couple issues of War of the Realms, one of Marvel's big miniseries. I had issue number 1 already, but finding 2 through 4 was handy and fill in those gaps. And then a couple copies of Cosmic Ghost Rider. I have no idea about this series. I was trying to collect the whole Donny Cates run of comics recently, and it's just sort of been piecemealing it together because I wasn't on the wagon for it when it first came out. So now it's like trying to hunt down all the weird little issues so I can sit down and just read his sort of Marvel editions. And then my last piece of media that I was super excited about was a sealed copy of the Star Wars trilogy that I found at the Goodwill bins. This was in their case, so it was actually $5, but it includes all the theatrical editions are included on this one because I'm not a big fan of the special edition stuff. It was great when I was a kid or a young adult, but as time's gone by, I tend to veer back towards the ones I watched growing up. I think those are the better ones. And for whatever reason, they aren't printing the good one. They aren't printing the theatrical ones in a great, like the remastered or like all the nice editions they can do nowadays. So finding them on DVD whenever I can, I'll usually pick them up because I want to be able to watch them until I can't anymore.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's what I got for media this week.
Nice. All right, Kevin.
All right, let's see. How am I going to do this?
Although I should mention, so since last time, Kevin did send me a package of VHS tapes recently as well. So that was very nice. I've added more to my collection from his.
I will always send stuff if I offer, but I do forget during the day and then go, oh crap, I got to do that. It will always happen eventually. Okay. VHS round, not too many, but just, fun ones. Found Sub-Zero, which, I love Batman animated, so I'll grab it. I gotta check. I do have a DVD set of the entire collection. I can't remember if the movies were on the set or not. I found a bunch of wrestling, which shocked me. Because anytime I do, I'm like, I didn't donate it. So who else in this area is doing that? So all USA All-Star Wrestling Volume 3 from Video Treasures, and this wonderful Andre the Giant art on the cover of it, which is just absurd. Dusty Rhodes, Killer Brooks, Bruiser Brody, and then Victor the Wrestling Bear versus Gary Hart. I have no idea. I had to grab it though. Not a words are hard. Not a WWF one, which is curious when you see the rest of it here. So it's a Sergeant Slaughter set, but it is produced by American Wrestling Association, AWA. However, if you remember when Sergeant Slaughter was an Iraqi sympathizer, that would be General Adnan, who was his manager during the time. So why is he on here too when it's AWA stuff, not WWF stuff? So I don't know, unless it's the character he previously portrayed and there was an AWA match. That's my only guess there. What order do I want to do these in? Diamond Dallas Page, Feel the Bang. one of the very few WCW NWO releases.
Yeah.
Straight up WCW release. Ric Flair, at the time, 2 decades of excellence and an 11-time world champion. Needs to be updated. I don't know if anyone else remembers watching this on TV. I found a sealed copy, which was kind of cool. I know it's trash, but Exposed, Pro Wrestling's Greatest Secrets. I remember this being a crazy thing, huge amount of controversy for it and everything. And then they had like the magic secrets exposed and all that too.
Yeah.
WCW Beach Blast, featuring Ricky Steamboat versus Rick Rude, Medusa and Missy Hyatt in a bathing suit contest, and Sting versus Cactus Jack.
So my friend, he got this pay-per-view. I remember it was for his birthday, and we all went over to watch that because I remember all of those matches. That is crazy.
So behind the scenes, when the House Show podcast was going on, Beach Blast / Batch at the Beach was highly debated as one of the next series that we were going to do. Because it would have been the Beach House show for however many weeks that took.
And is that where Hogan made his WCW debut at one of the Bash at the Beach, or no?
It may have been a Bash at the Beach, but more memorable was that's when he turns and joins NWO.
Right.
That was
okay.
at the Beach.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, oh, that'd be a good series to do. It's me. It's wrestling related. It's WWF Divas Postcard from the Caribbean. They used to do these all the time when women's wrestling wasn't actual wrestling and was just roll around in tiny outfits. So much more respectable version now.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just continue with the disrespect though. Sunny got her own WWF release.
Wow.
Which I didn't realize.
That is a collection.
Yeah. So it's just like who she managed in her photo shoots and probably interview and stuff like that. Maybe the biggest fall from grace in wrestling history.
Sadly.
Like, horribly so. Speaking of fall, if your wings don't work, you're gonna fall. I love this cartoon. I have played it for my son. I own it on DVD, but I found a VHS and I'm like, I love it that much, I'm gonna grab it. Opus and Bill, A Wish for Wings That Work. I know it's not Christmas time, but God, I love this special so much. It's one of the dumbest, funniest things I've ever seen. I put it on for my kid. Who are these guys? I don't want to watch it in like 2-3 minutes. And he's like, okay, let's go. Like, it was just so ridiculous for it. So yeah, I mean, 30 minutes, Christmas special, good fun. I'm pretty sure there's a book of it out there. There's not, because there was all the Bloom County and then it turns into Outland. Like there's all the collections of it, but I'm pretty sure they did a separate hardcover just for this story for it. And to my knowledge, the only Opus and Bill animated anything ever, I'm pretty sure. That's my VHS run. I got my oddity books things to finish up. As Chris didn't realize some of the stuff I collect and go for there.
All right. Well, as I said, I've been finding a lot of VHS lately. So interesting places, interesting circumstances. The first one I'll just say here is like, this was just, I've been finding some Warner clamshell, big box stuff. Do I care about Burt Reynolds and Sharky's Machine? I sure don't, but I'm gonna grab it if I find it. So that was a cool thing. But when I went to this one garage sale, and they had all this home recorded VHS, and it was all labeled, and it was like box after box after box, and I was looking through all of them, but I could tell they were just recorded off of cable. So I'm just like, this is going to be nothing for me. And then I go to this table over in the middle, and just sitting there was Superman 3. And I was just like, I will take Superman 3. I'm very excited about that. So that was a cool find. I'll share just some of the random ones I've been finding, at Goodwill and other thrift stores. So there's this one here, Freeway, which I love these generic like 80s movies. Who's even in it here? Does it tell me? Yeah, nobody. Richard Belzer is in it, but that'll be an interesting watch. Here's another one of these like random, thrillers. Cat Chaser? What? Cat Chaser? Underworld a little bit later, this one in particular. All right. We got some 90s horror. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. I have the first one. Now I have the sequel. So glad to have that one added in. This was fun. I grabbed it only because I did not know before other such films that there was a movie called Wolverine, starring Antonio Sabato Jr. Remember when that was a name? Remember when we were hearing about him and all sorts of stuff? Um, Every Which Way But Loose. Always wanted to see this. Did not have it yet. Legend, I just grabbed. I think I already had a copy, but I was just like, it's a quarter. Um, okay. How about you talked about Dean Koontz earlier? Dean Koontz Whispers. But this is like the cheapest tape. Look how little tape there is. And this is supposedly a full movie. The quality on this tape is not going to be good. I'm not expecting much. How about Mighty Aphrodite though? Academy Award winner Mira Sorvino. So she is going to be at the Chiller Theater convention this year that my buddy goes to every year. And so he was like, "What?" I always send a VHS cover for him to have somebody there sign for me. So I think I might have her sign by Romy and Michelle, though, not Mighty Aphrodite. I don't have as much nostalgia for that. This is another one here. This is called Odds and Evens. Bud Spencer, I think he was Bluto and Popeye, but I might be wrong on that. But this is just like a random buddy movie that I'm always curious what they were doing in the 80s. Check this one out though. The Final Fantasy, The Spirit Within. But this is a former Blockbuster rental, so that was just fun to have that nostalgia there. All right, so also what happened one day is I was off running an errand, saw a garage sale sign, just stopped over real quick, and there were 3 of the wooden VHS drawer things just sitting there on this lady's, a table, and I was just like, and I pulled them open and I saw a couple like cartoon tapes, and I was just like, oh, okay, so I saw Tiny Toon Adventures, How I Spent My Vacation. I was just like, wow, that's a good tape to have. Like and when I did post about this tape and people were very excited. I got so many comments for people I've never heard of. They just came out of the woodwork, all the animation nerds. I was like, okay. So I started digging around in there. I said, how much you want from her? She's like, $3, just get them out of here. So I just got, and they weren't all full, like every drawer was full, but it was full of lots of stuff. So some of the others were these random Flintstone tapes and Jetsons tapes, which I'd never seen, these kind of double deal things. So that was kind of neat. And then there was also 2 volumes of Fabulous Cartoon Funnies. And this is 6 full hours, they claim. So you're getting Bugs Bunny, it's Raggedy Ann, it's Casper, it's all those public domain ones. How about Ernest Goes to Africa? That was in there. You better believe it. Okay, so also just in random running around, I started having some fun with a theme, which was dinosaur movies. This is a Roger Corman horror film called Raptor. I've watched like the first 10 minutes. Eric Roberts is in this. And yes, there's just a dinosaur just ripping people's guts out from like minute 1. It's what you want. But then I also found The Making of Jurassic Park. I have all 3 films on VHS already, but now I have that to go with it. This was really neat though. Land of the Lost. So this is the 70s Land of the Lost series, which I only know the 90s series. So I was really excited. Again, I watched a few minutes of this as well. The special effects are corny, but so amazing. Like for the time, I'm just like, wow. But sticking with dinosaurs, found an episode of the series. So again, I already had 2 of those tapes. So to get another one was great. This was the one I was most excited about though. Dino Riders. Yeah, this is volume 2. So that was just great to find that. The thrift store I got this at had it in their case. Then I guess it didn't sell because they were trying to sell it for too much and they just put it with their other pile of tapes and I grabbed it, so waiting 3 weeks paid off. Okay. I'll share this real quick. It's my one wrestling tape to share at this moment. But my buddy, I do a lot of transferring of VHS to DVD for him, not even just to digital. He wants it on DVD. So he sent me WrestleMania 12, which was cool. So I have that. But my big VHS find was I went to a garage sale. I walk up there, it's just this old lady sitting out there, and in like a cardboard, like filing box, I see VHS tapes, and I'm seeing anime. I'm seeing Akira. Okay. I'm like, okay, well, Akira. I mean, a lot of people bought Akira. It's not a big deal. I'm seeing Lupin the Third. Okay. I'm seeing Fist of the North Star. Okay, so these are all pretty popular titles, Project, AKO, all that stuff. Dirty Pair, but there were like so many of these tapes, and I started just counting. I'm like, well, they were $1 a piece, and so I just said, can I give you like can I just pay you for the whole box, or I have to pay you per tape? She's like, well, they're not mine. You just buy each one individually. I was like, okay. But I had to run to the bank to get enough money because there were 30 tapes. So I ran across the street real quick, hoping nobody was going to buy them. Got back just in time, grabbed the box, took it home. And then I started looking them up because, like, I know anime sells, I know manga sells, I know it always sells. And like most of these tapes sell for like $20 a piece. There were collections, like, a 6 tape set and all these other things that sell like, so I was just like, for the $30, I've made, $30 many times over. I'm not even showing you all of them, right? There's 30 tapes and I've already sold a bunch of them. So it's just like, always grab anime if you're out there. It will sell. They are looking for it. The only thing that frustrated me, this is my quick rant, is one guy bought like 3 of the tapes from me and then did not pay. And I will never understand eBay people who just go on, they're bidding back and forth with somebody, and then they don't pay. And they just disappear. It's like that's the game for them, is to like beat somebody in an auction, but they didn't actually want the thing. I cannot comprehend. So weird. All right, but yeah, so that's all I got for the VHS I want to share right now, and then yeah, I'll have some tapes to close out. So, all right, Chris, you got a couple more things?
Yeah, we got some more stuff. I did forget. I had a couple other VHS tapes I wanted to pull up real quick. The home recorded ones that I'm separated from the other ones. I posted these on social media too, but I finally found Monster Squad. Unfortunately, it's home recorded Monster Squad, along with Born in the East LA and Roxanne. I haven't had a chance to watch it to see what they are, if they're like off of HBO or what.
I know. I want to see that. Yeah, and if it's like a television cut or something, I'd be fascinated. Yeah.
Then the other thing I got was what I posted this on Instagram, and I affectionately referred to it as 8 Hours of Heartbreak. And it was the Blazers versus the Bulls championship series back in, was that 92, when the Blazers just fell apart and Michael Jordan went on to win his next championship. Rough time. I don't know why I do that to myself, but finding it on there, hopefully there's some really awesome 1990s commercials. That's the one thing I could take out of that.
Yeah.
Found a couple other oddballs, odds and ends here and there. Thrift storing. The bins. I found this cool vintage, like, claw machine prize, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles claw machine prize, definitely from like the 90s, based on the art, like sort of the satin pillow thing.
That character design is crazy.
Yeah. I love Ace novelty. So it's definitely a claw machine toy. This is not my thing, but I grabbed it because I do know people collect Nickelodeon stuff. It looks like Rocco Life fanny pack.
Yeah.
I was sort of past the age of Nickelodeon. Basically the 90s were my teen years. So I didn't, and we didn't have Nickelodeon growing up. So it was hard to get into it. Garage sailing. I found a nice Master of the Universe vehicle.
Yeah, nice shape with the stickers and everything. Yeah.
They're in pretty nice condition. I was happy to find that. I went to Goodwill. My son had cross country, and like we're trying to figure out what to do between things. And so I ran to Goodwill real quick while we're burning a few minutes. And I'd already gone in the day before with my wife and didn't really see anything. But Silverton, there's not much to do in the evening, so we're like, oh, I'll go look again. And I found a FOSSA Star Trek Starship Tactical Combat Simulator, and it looks like it's all complete. I open it up, even if like some of the things are punched, but they're nice and put them all in a plastic baggie, unlike what typically happens with games like that. So I was like, $4, that's worth taking home with me.
Yeah.
Some other garage sale finds I found. I found this lady had a big bag of, I didn't know what they were at first. But they're like little Lego launchers. They launch these Lego cars with little people. I've never seen them before. They have like this sort of rubber band.
Yeah.
Construction, but there's like 6 of them, and she wanted $5 for the full bag, and I'm like, I'll do that. And I looked them up later, and it looks like they sell from anywhere from $5 to $15 a piece.
Wow.
I got
Someone knows about them.
Yeah, those are there and complete. Couple other things I found at some flea markets. Found sort of a nice copy of Luke and Obi-Wan.
Wow.
Obi-Wan has his lightsaber. He's just missing the little tip that's always chewed off, and Luke doesn't have a saber. But I got them for pretty cheap, and getting them where their paint's all this nice is usually rare, finding things like that. Where is the... Oh, this one's for Adam. Also, that same little flea market booth I went to, we found some Alf buttons, aerobic alien. Or not buttons, sorry. By Rust, they are magnets.
Oh.
Yes, I'm a movie star. And of course, the party alien.
That's pretty great.
And then I haven't bought too much from my friend Phyllis, who usually hooks me up with a lot of vintage stuff.
Yeah.
But I did pick up a couple things. Starting out, we got this Remco Ronald McDonald, basically same scale as like Mego action figures. I realized that after I picked it up from her that I already have one, so he's going to just go into my thrift store or in my flea market booths. Remco also made a line or a couple different lines of Masters of the Universe knockoffs.
Yeah.
Defenders of the... So I got these really cool Defender of the Planet. Yeah. They just look unique and sort of crazy. They'll fit right in with all the other vintage Master of the Universe dudes I got. Phyllis also had a bag of these for me. I got for a couple bucks. Muscles, and they're all a couple of them. I looked them up, and a couple of them are from the board game, which I haven't seen her post the board game up yet. But the colors of that model are the board game pieces. So hopefully if I see her pop that up, I'll grab it. So that way I can complete that game. But the whole little baggie of them, I mean, you can't really pass up on muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I going to jump to next? Oh, also from Phyllis, I got a couple carded ET stunt ships.
Huh. There's wind-ups?
Yeah, kind of. I think. Are they a wind-up or...
Pullback? Yeah.
Be pullbacks, these ones. Yeah, these are pullbacks. They do wheelies, spin-outs, all sorts of different little things. I kind of remember having some toys that were like this when I was a kid. But She had a couple of them. I had to grab them. I've been finding a lot of these guys recently at thrift stores. So I have like 3 or 4 different versions of the T-Rex from Jurassic Park now, because there's so many different versions of him.
That's pretty great.
Down, but yeah, and he's also got some weird. I guess it's showing off his DNA.
Wow.
Yeah, it's he's pretty cool. His face is a little cooler than the other ones that I picked up recently. Another thing from Phyllis that I got, who remembers the Sectors line, the insects. Yeah. You don't find the ones with wings very often, so she had one of them, but he was missing his wings, so I ended up getting the other one, which was the one that you could fill up with water and squirt the heroes or your siblings, depending on how the mood struck you. And also at a flea market recently, I found some more adventure people, like a little lunar ship. Everything's in pretty good condition. I think it looks like it's missing a piece, but it was pretty neat looking. It was like only a couple bucks, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take that home with me. And then, oh yeah, the other flea market, you might dig these a little bit, Adam. Definitely fodder. It is the retailer preview copy of Ninjak #1.
Wow, interesting. And that's like the rebooted Acclaim Comics Ninjak, where he's like a video game character. That's kind of cool.
It is a true ash can, basically. It's made to be a preview.
That's neat.
I got that for, I think it was like $1.50. I don't have any of these in my collection, so I grabbed one, Starship Troopers comics. I forgot they even made them, but I haven't had a chance to sit down and read it yet. Definitely, it says inspired by the Robert Heinlein novel, but I'm wondering, based on the art, I'm thinking it's probably closer to the movie.
Yeah.
I like going to that guy's booth because he always has he was a comic and sports card dealer. And so got a copy of Beckett #1, Football Beckett #1. I was a big Bo Jackson fan when I was a kid, and I still collect Bo Jackson stuff. I don't have this magazine, so I had to grab it. VHS adjacent. He had this binder full of coming soon stuff, and so there was this thing for Dark Crystal, a Dark Crystal 3-punch ad in this binder, and it's like basically order now to get your get the pre-book by June 7th. And it's just like the Disney stuff. It was sort of weird. It's that green, also that green.
That's
VHS.
what I was gonna say. Like I have a couple of like the slipcover ones. I've never seen that clamshell before, the Dark Crystal.
I think I've seen it before, but it was so beat up because those clamshells they just disintegrate after time.
Yeah.
That I've passed on grabbing it. It's always fun because I always forget what we got going here. Another one, Wizard magazine store display poster.
I have one of those up on my ceiling, tacked to my ceiling right now, and I have another one because I ended up with 2 for the price of 1. The guy sent me. It was like, what? That's pretty great.
Goodwill's not been great lately. But for some reason, I found a lot of Star Trek at the past couple ones I've gone to, because I found these Star Trek Goodwill rubber stamps. And it was the only thing in the store that was even somewhat interesting. I like, you know what? I'm going to grab it. It's I got to feel like I at least got something out of this trip. And then my last book I got from the bins recently. I love 1980s and 1970s era books on martial arts and self-defense stuff. And so when I saw this one, I just had to bring it home. It was Alone Against the Knife. devastating self-defense techniques for unarmed target of a knife attack, because we all that's something that worries us all. We all have to worry about that.
It's bound to happen. It's just a numbers game.
So there's that. And then I got one other big, I do have one big thing I want to do, hit back around at the one round after this, but I do have a couple other little things to show off. One of those little flea market booths, I got a sealed box of Star Trek Deep Space Nine cards.
Wow.
Which includes one autograph per box. So I haven't opened it. I got it for, the price was actually a lot, like
Come
less
on,
than
Quark. Got to get Quark.
That's one of the good ones.
Yeah.
Cisco, I think, is the other big name. The rest of them are like $20 autographs. So it's like, I'm not gonna take a chance and get Jake Cisco. I did finally I haven't hit the bins recently, except for finally I hit them this week. I was just had a little bit of time to spare. And sometimes I find the coolest stuff in the sorting tables, the tables where people throw stuff back that they don't want to deal with. And this time was no different, because I found this amazing Christmas Hams bear. And Hams was the beer that my grandma liked the best. So anytime and also, you know, the 80s, a great time during our childhood when cigarettes and beer was all advertised with cartoons.
Yeah.
So the Hams bear, anytime I see Hams bear stuff, I always grab it. Makes me think of my grandma, and it's just sort of a cool thing from that era. So I'm gonna wait and do the last thing. I have one last decent big item to show off.
Okay.
A little bit of a story with it.
Kevin, show us your last round of stuff here.
All right. So Chris had found some Western pulps and was showing it in our little chat there, and he didn't know my interest. So I'd only found one in this last bit. Bad Times Comin', a violent new Western. So, but then I was glad that we had that back and forth, because I have been finding stuff, but I haven't been happy with it, I guess. But then I was just like going through, I'm like, I got cool stuff here. Like, let me, make a big pile out of it. So a lot of like your trade paperback book oddities, but fit me. So I've kind of lessened it over the last year. But I was collecting like collections of comic strips for a while. And now, instead of just grabbing everything, I'm going to focus on that. But I've never seen a box set of Doonesbury of all the comic strips. So 5 different Doonesbury books in here, slipcase cover for it. It was $4.75 when it came out. God knows when. But I was just very shocked to find that. Even their current collections are your oversized, almost like magazine size ones when they collect it. Then there was like this Nancy one, looks almost like the current version of it, which is a very odd comic. It's very funny now, but it's very odd. It looks more like that version of it. So I'm trying to figure out like when this kind of Nancy was around. Like there's more evolution to this comic strip than I realized, I guess. Mother Goose and Grimm special, which I was like, all right, cool. But what got me is now a Saturday morning cartoon series on CBS. I have zero recollection of a Mother Goose and Grimm cartoon series.
Oh, I remember it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm guessing it was a 1-season one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
okay.
brief.
Yeah, because that's what threw me off. I'm like, I don't remember this, and that's something I would usually remember. This one is a Harvey collection, so not comic strip, but comic books, but is Casper Ghost Stories, first time in paperback. So it looks like one of those ones collecting the comic strips, making it black and white, and then just selling it at, drugstores and stuff like that. The one that I will inherit a giant collection of from my mother of all people is her Family Circus collection. When my brother and I were younger, she loved Family Circus. Thought it reminded her of us. So she has a couple shelves of a bookshelf that's all the Family Circus trade paperbacks. But what got me is Bill Keane, the creator of Family Circus, made other stuff. So this is more channel Chuckles. It's just like TV show, like television jokes and humor. It's got nothing to do with Family Circus. It's his art style, and that kind of looks like Billy on the cover there, but it's not. And I was just kind of shocked to find that one. But then what really got me, and I remember this from when I was a kid, I'd forgotten. Bill Keene's next door neighbor was also very famous in the newspapers, because Bill Keene's next door neighbor was Irma Bombeck. So every so often she would have a new book come out, like Just Wait Till You Have Children of Your Own, and she would go across the lot and ask her neighbor to add some art to it. And so it's not his usual like Family Circus stuff because it's going with her humor, but just really cool and interesting and odd that they would be two newspaper icons back then would be friends. What order do I want to do this in? Doesn't really matter. It must be the same person who thought of VHS, but this is really cool pictorial history of wrestling. I mean, it's got like a silver bug attack in here or something like that, but I'd never seen it before, so I had to grab it. Lots of old black and white photos, lots of stuff I'd forgotten. I'm sure Jim Cornette would like this a lot. Okay, I'm into our pulpy stuff here now. Dick Tracy movie novelization, a Max Allan Collins one, which I should have expected. Seems like he does a lot of these. And I'm curious, like I haven't watched the movie in a while. It's coming back around. A lot of people have done, rewatches of it and seem to find a new love for it. And I want to do it at some point. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I will do this one off. I didn't know George R.R. Martin from Game of Thrones. I knew him from Wild Cards, which I just thought was such an interesting idea, and I've never read one of the books. So I grabbed that. But the idea is this thing encompasses Earth, and it's kind of like a card is where you sit in it. If you're like a number card, 1 to 10, you pretty much died, or you're a mutant or a zombie or whatever. But if you're Jack, Queen, King, or Ace, you actually have like some useful superpowers. And then they do it as an anthology. So he'll grab a random friend and be like, tell a story of an ace, tell a story of a king. And they just kind of create something for that world. In a way, it kind of reminds me of like if Astro City was open source and anyone could write stories in there. Like that's kind of the best example I could give for it. I found, you know what? I'll do those ones last. That would make more sense. I read Jaws years ago. Speaking of like, you're probably one of the biggest pulpy, whatever ones. And Jaws is actually really good. If you've never read it, the book's actually really good. So I found Peter Benchley's The Island, which doesn't look like a monster, just looks like revenge, scariness thing. But I also found Beast, which looks like Jaws, but with an octopus. Now, as good as Jaws with an octopus is, what's even better that you probably didn't know there was a movie novelization for? Jaws with a killer whale. Orca.
Yeah.
This movie messed me up so much. My mom thought it was Jaws, like TV edit. At some point, there was a TV edit of it. I don't know what channel had it, but some channel did. Now, the Jaws TV edit is tolerable for a kid, air quotes there, younger version of myself. When I finally watched unedited, I didn't know when Jaws comes up on the kid and the yellow floaty thing, I had no idea that scene was coming. And I'm like, oh, that's graphic. I never saw that scene in my life. Orca's graphic. The TV edit was graphic. I was stunned by it, but it was so cool. So I had to grab that. This is a pulp adventure one. The Avenger, the Shadow, all the other ones. I gotta imagine this whole thing is an inside joke and it's gonna be absolute sleaze. But the Penetrator. Like now hang on, because we have two Penetrator adventures, Blood on the Strip and Hijacking Manhattan. What do you call on the spine that is sold in drugstores with little old ladies when you have two adventures starring the Penetrator? Why, you call it your double penetration.
Wow. There had to be one. Every episode he finds them, folks.
It's like I at this point I feel like I have to. I feel like people would be disappointed if I didn't at this point. But I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. Who got away with that? Now let's go wholesome. I found some Batman stuff that I thought was very cool. I think a lot of people have ended up with this, the Untold Legend of Batman comic on the inside, but very cool, very fun. One of the few like comic book things you'd find in your mass market section. We also have the Further Adventures of Batman, a collection of 14 short stories. Isaac Asimov has one in here, which I'm very curious what he would do. Max Allan Collins, again, should have expected that. But I was like, that would just be cool to see your novelist take a different approach to it. And finally, I read this when I was younger, and then I went and saw the movie, and I was very confused because it was my first experience with a movie novelization. Stuff doesn't always line up. But the Batman movie novelization is actually really fun. I loved it, but I read it in what, 89 then? Maybe, I'm going to guess 89 and not like 88. But read it then, loved it, absolutely cool. Can't wait to, like, I found it again. I'm like, I wonder if it holds up. Be very curious. So we'll try. But I was excited for all those pulpy little adventure ones. Now I just gotta make room and read them eventually.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got my copy of the Batman novelization back there. So that's great. All right. Well, I'll close out with the last of my stuff here. So cassette tapes, I've been gathering so many lately. I've just been lucky enough to find these different hauls. Now, of just like random here and there, like I got a Dolly Parton album, White Limousine. Never heard of that one before, so that was kind of cool. Got Boston, Third Stage. So I think that was after their original lead singer left, if I remember right. But I might be wrong. No, maybe he was there for Third Stage and they did one more after. But either way, B-52's album, which is cool. Joe Jackson. These were just at a garage sale for like 25 cents each. So I was just like, I'll grab them while I'm here. Starship, that has We Built This City on it. So gotta have that. I was able to grab a couple Disney ones. So I got Beauty and the Beast and Pocahontas. So there we got that. John Schneider's Christmas album. So Mickey from the Retro Network, he loves his Dukes of Hazzard. Years ago, I bought him this on vinyl that I found at Goodwill and sent it his way. So now I have that. This one was funny. I stopped at this one like church. They were calling it like a yard sale, but it was inside the church. And I saw this. It was the only thing there that I wanted, but I was like, I don't want to buy just the one thing. So I didn't. And then 2 weeks later at Goodwill, it was there. So they just dumped off what didn't sell. So I was like, oh, fine with me. But the big thing is there was an estate sale sign that I saw, and I was all excited because I was like, oh God, I love an estate sale. I walk in, my 5-year-old's with me for this particular adventure. We walk in, and all it is like there's rock samples, there's taxidermied animal heads and animal skin rugs and just everything everywhere. I'm like, there's gonna be nothing for me here. But then I go downstairs, and after seeing everything, and none of it was of interest at all, I walk in, and this one room has a stereo system, and it has all these like cassette things like holders that you would hang on the wall, and they were just like there was probably like 12 of them, and I'm like, what? And so I start digging through, and I'm finding random stuff like Izzy Stradlin from from Guns N' Roses. Okay, he had a solo album. I found a Bangles album. I had the other two, and this was like their big one with like Walk Like an Egyptian and Manic Monday. So I got that. But then there was stuff like, how about all the MC Hammer albums? So I was able to get those, which is cool. Now, the only weird thing, you probably aren't going to be able to see this, but for some reason, the person who owned these would underline like the name of a song and then write a question mark next to it, or write commentary on the liner notes. I'm like, what are you doing? Who are you writing this for? Like, that was really random to me. But what I was most excited about was after I got through just like random albums and stuff, I started seeing soundtrack cassettes. It's like Eddie and the Cruisers. Okay, it's kind of a cult film. Not a lot of people know about it, but Disorderlies with the Fat Boys. Okay, so we got that. Action Jackson. What? The original motion picture soundtrack. Okay. Wild Orchid. All right, with a sexy Stevie Mickey Rourke film. the Blues Brothers soundtrack, so that's great. Uh, Biodome with Pauly Shore. I was looking on eBay, like the CD you can find, but the cassette, like never. Nobody was buying cassettes when that came out. The Addams Family Values soundtrack, not the first one with MC Hammer. Maybe somebody got there before me because they had all the Hammer. I figured they would have that one, but no. But the one that was just the strangest to me was Steven Seagal's Marked for Death. Like, what is that doing there? Like that, I don't know. I just it's all kind of like R&B, like hip hop rap stuff on it, which I was not expecting. I mean, I've seen the movie, but I didn't remember that was part of it. So anyway, I've picked up other random odds and ends cassettes there, but it was just that was really fun just to be in there. Be like, if I only had like a couple bucks with me, or I would have bought more. Like that was the thing. Sometimes you're just, and it was cash only. So that was, even though it was being run by an estate sales service, I was like, maybe they'll take a card. Oh no. Oh well. So yeah, so that's what I got. My soundtrack cassettes were a fun find. All right, Chris, let's see your big
All
item
right.
and then let's close it
So,
out.
a couple weeks ago, I saw on something popped up on Facebook Marketplace, a big Pokemon collection, and it was one of those. It was at a price that was reasonable for how much there was. And so I asked her, do you have any other photos? And she goes, I'll send you a video. And she sends me the video of her just flipping through the pages. And I go, okay, I'll just take it. I saw enough there. I go, I can, even if I just took a couple things out that I wanted to sell or keep to myself and just resold everything, I could get my money back on it. And so it's not that extra much of work. And then she messaged me again. She goes, hey, I think you're a friend of my dad's. And so I had to go back through her Facebook profile, look, and sure enough, she's one of my gaming buddies from a number of years ago's kid. And I haven't seen her since she was probably 14, and that was 20 some years ago. And so I was like, now I recognize you, now that I see that, because I could definitely see my friend in her face. So I ended up buying the collection from her. I go, and I asked her, she's just getting rid of the cards, and she's telling me, yeah, I've just been trying to clean out and get rid of stuff. I just gave away all my CDs on like one of the giveaway sites. And I'm like, oh no. I go, well, here's one of my cards that says everything that I buy. So if you have anything else, let me know. And she goes, oh, I got video games. And I'm like, you do? What do you got? And she goes, do you like Super Nintendos? And I go, yes, I do. And she goes, well, it's my dad, so I don't know if I can get rid of it. So I called him and I said, hey, guess where I'm at right now? I'm at your kid's house. And so I'm getting your Super Nintendo from her. And he's like hemming and hawing at me a little bit and joking around. He goes, she's going to sell my Super Nintendo? I go, nah. She said she's going to throw it in on the deal. So, and he laughed. I got to hook him up with some G.I. Joes later. But the Super Nintendo she brings out. So I got the Super Nintendo, and it's really clean, good condition that it ran the last time she used it. But the thing that excited me the most was there were 9 games. So we got Final Fantasy II, Lagoon, Donkey Kong Country 2, Monopoly, Clue, SimCity, Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario World, and the one that's not super valuable, but it was the most exciting for me out of that collection, was Populous. Did you guys ever play this game?
I've heard of it. I remember it, but I never played it. Yeah.
So you have this big flat world, and you're playing a god, and so you try to create things to get your followers, and then you could actually get angry and smite them, causing earthquakes or like volcanoes and all sorts of different things. I mean, I just played it forever. It's just that funny. I've got all these little people, and now you got to wipe them out. I mean, people do it with The Sims now, but like this was back then when you could do like create weird worlds and stuff. So, and then you'd also have to fight followers of other gods and stuff like that. And it was sort of a fun little game. It's one of the first games I got for the Super Nintendo, so it has a lot of nostalgia for me. But
Yeah,
was
but
real
great
happy.
deal. Fun story to go along with it. Just the connection there.
Well, we always joke because Oregon's the smallest. We always say Oregon's such a small state because it doesn't matter where you go, you'll run into somebody from Oregon that knows or you know somebody who knows them. So, but yeah, it was pretty cool haul. It's good to see all your guys' stuff too. That was a lot of
Yeah.
lot of there.
Glad we're back together. We'll have some stories to tell next time from RetroCon. We're sure that Chris is going to hit up some more shows in the meantime, and we're going to run to some people's tables. But thank you, everybody, for checking out this video. And if anything sparked some nostalgia for you, leave a comment below. Let us know. We'd love to have a little conversation with you about it. But just stay subscribed here and check out the other things on the Geekster Vision channel. But we'll be back next month. Check you later.
This has been a presentation of Geekster Media.